Hey, hey, hey. Oh my gosh. I know y'all are like, where is this woman at? Like, where she be at? Where is she? I'm so sorry to keep y'all waiting. I am so incredibly sorry. But I had to figure out where we were going live tonight, to be honest with you. Oh, let me see if I can do that. Let me put my stuff here so y'all can see who I am. Welcome tonight. We're going to be going through what we've been going through. We're going to be talking some more and more and more about where is what happened to my did it not upload because I just stopped it. Cheese and rice. We're going to be talking about the Daystar situation still a little bit tonight. So as you're coming in, if you could just like hit the like button, I would really appreciate it. Hopefully people will figure out that we're live. I'm gonna um get out here in these streets and let everybody know a little bit more that we are live. I probably should have posted it more places. Sorry, folks. Let me tell you something. It's been an interesting day today. I've had a lot of fun. I got some things done for myself. I met with some wonderful people today, so that's always a nice thing. Yesterday, though, was it yesterday? Maybe it was the day before. I was watching yet, I think what's probably going to be the last of, it's probably going to be the last, honestly, of the um interviews. I think for a little while, maybe, but I think this is going to be probably the most interesting one. Okay. Of them all, because this one is all with Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson. Actually, I think it was Friday night, did a live interview with John and Suzy Lamb. And I have not seen anyone give any commentary about it yet, which I find very telling. I find very interesting. I find it a little disconcerting, because I'm going to tell you, of all of the interviews that we have thus far given commentary on, this one had the most, let's just say, damning information. This one honestly had the most damning information. This one, you could really see the results of the brainwashing, of being kind of, forced into this. I don't want to say forced, it's not fair, but I will anyway. Being in this charismatic Christian cult. Okay. That's what really, at the end of the day, this is a charismatic Christian cult. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So I'm going to welcome everybody on X. I'll open up X in a minute. Welcome everyone on Insta. I want to say hello to Katrina. Hello to Christina. Hello in Ontario. You're watching from St. Catharines and Monroe. You just look like the most beautiful, amazing, sweet, darling of a woman. Thank you for watching from Ontario. I so appreciate you being here. All right, we're going to play the intro while we're letting people kind of come in the door. Come on in the room. We're letting people watch the intro, and then we are going to get started. I'll cue up the video, and then we're going to get started. Okay. Hey, Corey, how are you? You in the bushes? Baby, you need to find out who these people's is. Okay, you in the bushes. Welcome. Corey, I haven't seen you in a while. It's welcome, welcome, welcome. And you haven't heard. This is interesting. So, okay, so NPE, hello. let me give a little bit of background for those people, because I have a lot of people that have watched me in the past. And so, here on this channel, I don't want anyone to get offended by anything. I'm not in the business of offense. I'm in the business of helping people heal, and then also helping people walk, live, and be abundant in their purpose. That's my business. Okay. So I do a number of different things. One of which I do is I help people create businesses, spiritual transformational businesses. So like grief counselors, trauma counselors, life coaches, things like that. And I certify people in that area as well. And then from time to time, I'll do a little astrology here and there and a little tarot. That's kind of where we cut our teeth. I also talk about Reiki and other things, cutting cords and generational things and whatnot. But then I also talk about what is in the current world, right? What is either pop culture or church culture. And we will talk about it in regard to how it is affecting either the collective and or what lessons we can learn. The Daystar situation is a lesson to learn. Okay. The Daystar situation is one of these lessons to learn, and I will tell you why. I did not come up through, believe it or not, I did not come up through the Black church. Okay. My father, I think I mentioned this on one of the other Daystar videos. I mentioned it before, but my father, my grandmother and grandfather are kind of Baptist Black church royalty in Chicago. They were two of the founding members of Liberty Baptist Church. My grandfather was a not just a minister of music, but he was also a composer, and he was a contemporary of Walter Hawkins. And that when Walter Hawkins first was really becoming um, well known, or becoming, in the Be Grateful days and before then, when three-part harmony for church choirs, Black church choirs, was becoming a thing, your B3 Hammond, all of these things. So we're church royalty. And that's from my father's side. My mother's side, my grandmother, God rest all my grandparents' souls, rest in power and in peace. She was a white woman that married a Black man in the 50s, in the mid to late 50s, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That, well, actually, I think they got married in Kansas, actually. But anyway, they moved to Milwaukee. That was just not done. So he was a member of Church of God in Christ. And so my parents, my mama and my aunties, grew up Church of God in Christ. So that's where all this. Now, my father grew up underneath the pew pretty much as well as my mother did. However, my father was like, I'm never going to force my kids to do this because I hated it. And my mother wanted us to like believe in the word and believe in God and all of that. No, Daystar is not part of Trinity. Daystar is not part of Trinity Broadcast Network. TBN and Daystar are two separate networks. They may now play some of the things from Daystar, but Daystar did not. TBN was already going and had its own trajectory when Daystar, the inception of Daystar. I want everyone, that is actually a very important thing to note. And maybe at some point we'll talk about the two and how they both started. But I want that driven home. What's interesting is that they both have the same, very similar paths, and they have found their demise or diminished capacity in similar ways. However, no, they did not. They are not. They may now have programming on TBN, but they did not, and they are separate entities. It is correct. It is its own correct. So, hey, Dragon's Majesty, how are you? Yeah, you look it up and look up my last two videos. You'll find. Hey, Miss, and by the way, hello, Sister Michelle. I love you, darling. Thank you very much. Thank you for the continued support via PayPal. I appreciate you so much. So anyway, so I say all that to say this, that I have done quote unquote Black church commentary before, but it is not necessarily, and you can comment on anything, but it's not necessarily my forte. The reason why I say it's not my thing, maybe, or the reason why this particularly has hit me so in the gut is because this is what I grew up in. I grew up non denominational charismatic. I grew up speaking in tongues. I grew up laying on of hands so that for healing. I grew up with all the gifts of the Spirit are for you today, as strong as they were back in the time of Jesus. I grew up where I grew up in prosperity, that prosperity message. I grew up listening to Kenneth Copeland, Kenneth Hagin, Marilyn Hickey, Jimmy Swaggart, later on, Jesse Duplantis. I grew up listening to that group. Okay. Not so much Perry Stone. I discovered Perry Stone later in my 20s. Benny Hinn, all of those folks. So I grew up in the faith healing. I grew up in the faith movement when we were only listening to them on the radio before they was even on television, child. When they had 15-minute spots on the radio. Okay. That's how long I've been involved with the non-denominational charismatic Christian arm of the church. So as I came up through, so these people, these, if anything, are my true church peoples. So if I have a right, if you will, not that I feel like I have a right to talk about it no matter what. But anyway, if I have a right to talk about anybody, I got a right to talk about these folks. Because I know these folks in and out. I've ministered alongside of and with people the likes of your Benny Hinn's and was Paula White ever part of one of the that she may have been? Um Cheese and rice. I've been involved in some of the same, situations or events like with the TD Jakes. There's a lot of these people that I know from either being involved in when they came to town as part of the conferences or when I was in somewhere else as part of the conference. Um, and I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot in local churches. And this is both in the non-denominational and the denominational because I did go speak in Church God in Christ churches and things of that nature. Because when I got into my 20s, my late teens, early 20s, that's when I started going to Baptist church, Church God in Christ, assemblies, all that, right? So I have a history and I've seen a lot. I need a beep. I don't even know if I've got a beep over here. Let me see. Do I have a beep as a sound effect? I doubt it. I don't think I have any sound effects in here. Let me. Oh, you know what? I might have them down here. Let me look for a beep because I need to say some things and I really would prefer for them to be beeped out. And I might not have a beep. Why do I not have a beep, you all? I need a beep. Okay. Um, so I have seen everything from same family situations, same family intimate. So children with their siblings to adults with children in the family. I've seen marital forcing of one party on the other. I've seen I've known of and have gained more knowledge now of same gender loving where there's a young man, specifically mostly young men that are either teens or in their early 20s and they are same gender loving and then the pastor or the bishop or whomever is same gender loving and it's on the down low and so then there is um what cannot be actually consented to, right? Relations between. Um, and I am not. So I am also. I will tell you right now. I don't want to hear any. That's an abomination, or that's. I'm not here. What we are not here for right now is we are not here to pass judgment on. I'm not here to have a whole discussion with anybody about what's right, what's wrong, what's an abomination under God, what's not. I'm just not here for it. And the reason why I'm not here for it is because we focus so much on whatever we think that is. And we've not focused enough on whether or not these people that we call ministers, that we call father, that we call bishop, that we call apostle, that we sit up underneath them every week, or we listen to them every week, and what they're doing behind closed doors, and how people, I titled this whole thing Sacrificial Lambs for a reason. Let me put that up because I want y'all to see that real quick. I want y'all to see um this JPEG again, just the thumbnail, just in case you didn't see it. The reason why I'm calling this particular video commentary Sacrificial Lambs, it is not, I didn't realize it was a play on the word. So on their last name. So pun very much intended, because what has occurred is families, children, marriages, individuals have been sacrificed on the altar of the empire. And what has become a thing now is that the empire and the brand and the business is over everything, and ethics and integrity has gone out the window. So, what we're going to hear from this today in just a few more moments, what we're going to hear from them, from John and Suzy, is we're going to hear them retell the situation. And I want you to really listen to their heart. And I want you to play, to pay very close attention to how they had been sacrificed and what spell, if you will, they were underneath. What I find extremely interesting is how the church wants to holler about rebellion is the sin of witchcraft, and everybody hollering about witchcraft this, witchcraft that. But what y'all don't realize is you're practicing it every day. What you don't realize is your pastors, a lot of them, and your bishops and your all your leaders is practicing witchcraft over y'all every day. And I'm gonna say 3 times on Sunday, because they're speaking spells over you. That's all that it is. A prayer is really a spell. I'll talk to y'all about that another time. I don't want to get involved in all of that. But when you are speaking out and you're saying something and you're repeating it and you're speaking, right? All that does is really you are literally reconstructing reality. The Bible in the beginning, right? In the beginning there was the word was God, the word was with God, correct? Now, if I'm gonna go, let me do this for y'all. Let me because I don't want nobody. Listen, I know the Bible just as good as the next person, and probably better than some of y'all. And I'm not trying to even be funny. I'm not even trying to be funny. Really, I'm not. But I'm going to read from you. We're going to start. Let me see. Should we do the new NIV? Y'all want the NIV or you want the King James? I'm going to start at the very beginning because I want you to see I want you to see for yourself that what the beginning was taught us exactly how to create our worlds. And this is what's going on, and y'all don't even realize it. And Genesis 1:1 says, and this is from the NIV, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the earth, now, full stop. He created all of this, full stop. Y'all gonna get some preaching today. If y'all didn't get there today, y'all gonna get a little bit today. And I'm gonna help y'all understand something. So at the beginning, God, some of us will say Mother, Father, God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So the heavens and the earth was created. Stop. Now, sometime later, after creation, because in the beginning it was, but now at the time of this, now the earth was formless and empty. Now I don't understand, God is not going to just create a formless and empty earth. Something must have happened. We'll talk about that another time. I want to get y'all to understand the situation here. Full chapter. Let me get the full chapter. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and darkness was over the surface of the deep. So darkness was not within the deep. Can y'all understand? I want y'all to come with me for a minute on this journey, because I think that we'll be able to relate this back to what's going on with the lambs. Notice that darkness was over the surface of the deep, and that caused it to be formless and empty. Darkness was not within the deep. So there can be a darkness that comes over your surface, but I want you to comprehend for me for just 1 second that darkness cannot penetrate your deep, not unless you will allow it to happen. Can somebody say amen? It cannot unless you allow it to happen. Darkness cannot go deep within, but it can cover you in such a way that you become formless and empty. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. I don't see no amens. Y'all ain't listening to me, but I'm going to preach myself happy, as they used to say. Here we go. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God said, "Are you not created in the image and likeness of God?" I will say, Mother, Father, God, because you cannot create life without feminine and masculine energy. Hopefully that doesn't bother y'all. But, or we'll just say Creator. And Creator said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And Creator saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. Moving to verse 6, and God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water." So God made the vault, Creator made the vault and separate the water under the vault from the water above the vault, which I find very interesting. And it was so. And Creator called the vault sky. So there's a separation from water in the sky and water on the earth. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. And in verse 9, and Creator said, so do you see a pattern? The creative energy that resides within you, that resides within me, because we were created in the image and the likeness, not just the image, but the likeness. Your children, if you have them, are created in your image and your likeness. There are some uh, things that they do that are very much like you, I'm sure, and others that may not be. Do you understand what I'm saying? Katrina, I'll go to the King James if you want me to read it from there. We could do that too. I'll read the next set of verses from the King James. How about that, Katrina? They have some characteristics that are much like you. Some of you probably have children that talk like you. I have an eldest daughter that I went and we just came from getting a pedicure not too long ago, and Facebook thinks we look just alike. And there's a lot of ways about her at her age that I saw myself, and I told her, "You are me on steroids, so I'm gonna need you to clean that up." But your children are made in the image and the likeness, so there are going to be some things that they can do that you could do. One of the things that we can do that our Creator imbued us with the power to do is to speak, and it is so. To speak a thing and let it be. To bind a thing and it is bound. To loose a thing and it is loose. To speak to the mountain and it is cast into the sea. Do you understand? To speak confusion into the camp of the army. So when you're the person you have allowed yourself to be up underneath a quote unquote covering over, which I'm going to show you at a later date, is completely not biblical, doesn't exist. And you've given a level of power and a level of just you said, well, this is the leader, the man, the woman of God that I'm going to follow. And at some point in the very near future, I'm going to show you that's not biblical either. All this hierarchy stuff, that's not biblical. Okay. Um, and especially in the usage thereof. So we'll talk about that another time. But when you give over all of this power to them, what you are doing is you're giving this, and then when they speak these things over you, they have spoken and it is so. And it ends up brainwashing. Because the true washing of the word, let's explain this as well. The true washing your mind with the word. Your mind is programmed by what comes in your eyes, what comes in your ears, and what comes from here. Do you understand? So, what's happening is you are being programmed to think a certain way, and your heart is being programmed to feel a certain way. And I'm going to suggest to you, perhaps this was not the way that you were created. That's how brainwashing happens, because your brain is washed. It can be washed with the word of God or the Bible. It can be also washed with other words. It can actually be washed with your word, which is what I teach you, because when your word is in concert with the conversation you're having here, which that which created you, oh, what you loose. Oh, the abilities that you are able to tap into that have always been here, and you finally see. All right. We're going to catch up on a couple of the commentaries here. Hello, KMB. How are you? Lovely to see you, darling. Why? Okay. Well, it is so spiritualized in the church because you did not want to flirt with men. Why are you flirting with men? Well, it's so we'll have to talk about that another time. But that exchange of creative energy one with another is it is hyper, there's a hyper focus on it, because it's better to be married than burn and all this other stuff, and not really understanding that the marriage covenant is goes so much deeper than just being able to consort in an adult manner. So we'll talk about why it is. I've told you before about the fact that people find the fact if you're anointed, or the fact if you're very spiritual, if you're very charismatic, that they find that attractive in the material world. I've had way too many men and far too many women that fall in love with. I'm not saying the women fell in love with me, but I've had way too many men that wanted to bed me because of, they want to have a relationship because they're attracted. It is sensual. Spirit is sensual. We will pray for them. Absolutely. Creator loves everyone. Okay, we went to King James and we have NIV. And Bonnie, hello. Bonnie's beginning writer's block. Hello, dear. Joni will probably throw Pete under the bus before it's over. I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Thank you, darling. And you're right, Sunflower Gold 8. No one needs to be covered by any church leader. All right, let's get into. I'm probably going to make some coffee in just a hot second. What we're going to watch now, and in the description box on YouTube. So in the description on YouTube, there is a link to this YouTube video that is on Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson's channel. So I need to put this out here first. Let me do this overlay. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for quote unquote fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Everything that we are discussing today, this commentary is going to be fall under fair use. I will put my banner up right now that states anything stated by me is my opinion. By my guests, if we decide to have a panel tonight, will be their opinion, and any criminal and or scandalous acts. Thank you, Sister Michelle, for your generous PayPal. Thank you so much, Sister Michelle. I appreciate you so. So everything again is stated by me, is my opinion. By my guests, should we have a panel tonight, would be their opinion, and any criminal or scandalous acts are alleged. Ladybug Sarah says, I think Doug will throw Joni under the bus eventually. I think all the rats may run off the ship. I think, to me, this is what I'm going to say. It is my I don't even want to say prayer. Would that they receive exactly what is due to them. Would that they reap what they have sown and they receive what is exactly due to them. Now I'm also let me see if I can we'll take the allegedly. We're gonna make Sister Michelle Holly. What do we call these? What do we call these? Sponsors. Sponsors of the stream. Our first sponsor of the stream tonight is going to be Sister Michelle Holly. Thank you very much. How do you become a sponsor of the stream? You can either gift memberships, you can send a super chat, or if you look down below in my description box, there are Cash App and super chat and PayPal and Venmo links. All right. So you can become a sponsor of the stream. And I appreciate all of you for being here. And if you do not, and you can also help this stream by clicking the like button. And if you wish to get more commentary like this as the days go forward on this and some other folks, we're going to be, the charismatic folks been acting up. So we are going to need to get with the hands. Okay, here we go. Share tab, audio share. Here we go. So what we're going to do is this is the beginning of she did this live and she calls this Daystar's Jonathan and Suzy Lamb tracked, followed and but standing strong. Here we go. Let's listen to it and please feel free to leave some comments and we will stop it every once in a while. Okay. I'm going to have to play this we'll play it at 125. I don't necessarily like playing it at 1.5, but I think 125 will change it enough.
We've all been following a story now for a little bit of time, a story of biblical proportions playing out on the world stage. It's the story of Daystar. It's a story that's got some deceptive parts to it. It has intrigue. It has a massive amount of wealth. And it has a family at the core of it. Earlier today, I have had the privilege of speaking with Jonathan and Suzy Lamb. Jonathan and Suzy Lamb were destined to become the leaders of Daystar and now find themselves in a position of having to give it all up in order to speak the truth.
Now, I just wanted to play that intro so you guys would know who she is. Please go to her channel as well. I want you guys to begin to listen to what they talk about because they're going to be here real quick. And this is deep. I have some very specific spots I want to go through, and then I want us to chat, okay, about them. Here we go.
Let's remember that as we're all grappling with some of the things that have been happening. God raised Daystar in order to be, maybe a voice for him. And somewhere along the line, something very difficult has happened. And so I was thinking about it, and I'd like to present it. And I want to ask you guys if you think this is it. So, for instance, if Joni, your mom, had never pushed that you have to read this comment, if she had just respected that, is there a possibility that none of this would have happened?
Yes, Miss Laura, that is actually a very reasonable possibility, simply because, again, the way we were conditioned, my whole life, I've done nothing but fully trust my parents to a level that was almost like unhealthy. Like there wasn't any skepticism about any decisions that they made. And so whenever my father had sat me down in his office and told me that Pete had been cleared by this forensic counselor, instead of doing whatever it took to uncover the truth at that time, we just moved forward as best we could within the family system that we were in. And that's a family system that's very tight knit. We all work together, and there's a lot of fear of if you ever do anything that goes against my parents, the fear of retribution was always there. So again, that led to us going down the route that we did. So not until my mother made the decision to marry Doug Weiss, a decision that we shared with you. We had a 3-hour discussion with my mom and Jimmy Evans and Doug, and kind of laid everything out on the table as to what our concerns were. I wrote her a beautiful letter also after that meeting to let her know, again, one final plea to Mom: I don't believe this is God's best for you. I urge you not to move forward with this. And that is the reason why I cannot walk you down the aisle. I said, I love you, Mom. You have your free will, and it's between you and God who you marry. But as your son and someone that loves you more than anybody in this world, I cannot endorse this marriage. I think it'll be one of the biggest mistakes of your life. But she continued to move forward, and obviously that led to a point where whenever they got back from the honeymoon, not maybe a week or two after that, my mom and Doug were the hosts, and Suzy and I were asked to read a viewer comment that was praising my mother's marriage. And Suzy and I simply asked the producer kindly, hey, we don't feel comfortable reading this viewer feedback comment. Could you please exchange it for another viewer feedback comment? Because we get obviously thousands of emails from viewers, and we could have read feedback about any other part of the ministry. However, my mom decided to put her foot down, and she said to the producer, tell them they can read that comment or they'll be cut from the show. And
so I want us to grasp what this, I want us to take this a little bit apart here. The reason why I'm playing that section is because, as we all know, Jonathan was fired and Suzy were fired because they disagreed with Joni getting married to Doug Weiss, because they feel, and I mean, I'm not going to disagree with them at this point, that Doug Weiss's divorce from his wife, Lisa, of 30 plus years wasn't biblical. If I'm going to go straight biblical, now, do I agree that the only reason you can biblically get divorced is because of adultery? No. I do think that you have a biblical right to get divorced, if your husband or your wife is physically harming you on a regular basis, or even a semi-regular basis, or even once. I think you're within your right to take care of the safety of yourself. I think if they are physically harming your children, you have a right to divorce. I think that if they are going through the throes of addiction, you have a right to divorce. So there are some things that I do believe that are biblical that are not laid out in the Bible. That being said, these two, their convictions, and they are Christians at what's supposed to be a Christian network that, according to the IRS, is also considered a church, which means it's a 501c3. Why is that so important, y'all? The ability for churches to make, that's my cat, Gemini saying hello, everyone. The ability for churches to rake in all of this money and be basically kind of skate around. I mean, there's a lot of regulation that, of course, surrounds a 501c3, but we all know that the capability and of any church, especially a large organization, and we're talking about a $1 billion entity, for there to be potential financial issues is problematic at best. There can be fraud that occurs, and nonprofits are some of the easiest ways for there to be fraud to occur. We can, I'm not gonna go there. Just look up NGOs, just look up 501c3. Look up how basically money can be laundered. There could be fraud, all sorts of stuff. And then so this is supposed to be a church, right? And we are supposed to, in this country, have freedom of religion. So if their religious beliefs as grown adults, okay, as grown people, he is a whole adult. He can have his own convictions, not according to Joni, though. According to Joni, they had to go along with whatever it was. And it was that allowed them to be, shortly after, at some point after that, allowed them to be able, their eyes to be opened and the darkness to be lifted from their sight. Lindsay, hey Lindsay, how are you, sweetie? I'm so glad that John and Suzy are speaking out. It gives me faith and hope that the truth will always prevail. They are so brave for taking on such evil. They are. And truth always does prevail. It is interesting. It may not prevail the same way a lot of people think it's going to. Hey, Kingdom TV, how are you? Welcome, Kingdom TV. Joni paid $100,000 for the honeymoon 2 months before they get child. Why are you giving spoilers? You're giving spoilers. Yes, we're gonna talk about that too. Ryan Martin, to understand the true spirit. Listen, I don't know if I want to get into the whole Jezebel, Asheroth, and Baal, because let me tell you something. Lord have mercy. Should I go here? The quote unquote Jezebel spirit is not just a female spirit. It is not just a spirit that can afflict women. And what do I mean? And I'm not even saying, and I'm gonna throw some out here. It can afflict quote unquote straight men too. There's a Jezebel. At some point, maybe in the very near future, we're gonna get into what Jezebel spirit really is. However, the root of all evil is indeed the love of money. I have no issue with them being a $1 billion business, because that's what they are. So let's not please not try to tell the story that they had, y'all ain't operated like a church since I don't know when, maybe never. Come on, baby. However, y'all a $1 billion business masquerading as a church, to me. But that's my opinion. According to Joni, if they don't go along, they lose. Not only do they lose the check, but they literally, when we're gonna get into it, y'all. Thank you, Rob Q. How you doing, darling? Thank you, love. Hello, lovely lady 37177. Trying to explain the Jezebel spirit and how it can afflict both genders heads. It will blow your mind, but it's true. We need to start understanding that these spirits, while they may have a higher frequency in a feminine or in a masculine resonance, that doesn't mean that they are solely feminine or masculine. That's been the way men been able to get away with not doing what they're supposed to do. And that's been the way they've been able to blame Eve for this and blame Jezebel for that. And that's been the way they've been able to say, well, women shouldn't be leaders and all this stuff. So what we're not going to do is we're not going to do that today. But that's not what we hear about, because this is not even about the Jezebel spirit. This is about the fact that you have two parents. We're about to hear this very shortly here. It's about to come up. That literally lied to their son, their biological son, about what someone else in the family did, or that they were cleared of this. How do you lie to you? Kingdom TV, bless you. Let me look you up real quick, Kingdom TV. Do you have a YouTube channel, Kingdom TV? I'm looking you up. I don't have any I don't have any you sure do, honey. Thank you, Kingdom TV, for being here. I appreciate you. I just went and I just subscribed. I'm gonna go over to your channel really quick. Thank you for being here, because I know I'm not necessarily everybody's cup of tea. I'm gonna bring it in a different way. But here is Kingdom TV's YouTube. All right, there we go. I'm putting Kingdom TV's YouTube channel here in the description. Jezebel was made evil by people. Yeah, we okay. I'm not gonna go down the Jezebel road. Okay, let's not. We're not gonna go down the Jezebel, but we gonna go back. We're gonna go back there. Sebastian, we're not talking about that tonight. Not tonight. I'm dealing with the church. and their granddaughter. But thank you, baby, for coming. I appreciate you. I mean, that's nothing. I told y'all that was going to happen before the end of the year anyway. I've been told y'all that a few. When did I tell y'all that? Earlier in the year. I've been called that. That is nothing new. Y'all need to put some respect on my name. When I tell y'all something gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Straight up. I'm well. I'm well. They are guilty of blasphemy, but they're guilty of worse than that. All right, let's get back to this. Okay. Let me see if I can find. Okay, here we go. Let's go here.
Sign an NDA or you will lose your position.
So now what happens is now they get to this point where they want them to sign an NDA. They want them to sign an NDA based on everything, on the marriage, on the essay of their child, everything. Or they would lose their position. Okay, here we go.
Position as vice president and position on the board. I said, knowing all that I know as far as all the spiritual abuse, and there's been no clear repentance or reconciliation from that. And plus knowing that there's still questions about what happened with my daughter, I said I could not sign the NDA truly of our daughter.
As my interview with Jonathan and Suzy continues, at the center of this controversy has been the essay of the child of Jonathan and Suzy, and it, to this point, has remained unresolved and has been one of the largest conflicts that has brought about the departure of peace from the Lamb family.
And Pete said, well, I like the city view too. And so he said, I want to see your city view. So they went up the stairs.
The grandson and Pete, and Pete had the baby.
The grandson, Pete, and the baby. All those details.
This was Joni's second response. You guys may remember I played this the other day, a few days ago. We went over this where she says Pete and the baby went upstairs with the grandson, and somehow they magically, were just in there and he didn't see nothing.
Has been left out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they went up the steps, and again, I was there. I heard this whole conversation, and around the same time, or maybe just a few minutes after, I don't know exactly when, but my granddaughter went up to the room and went over to her side while Pete and the baby and my grandson were looking out the window at the city view.
Okay.
And she proceeded to put her bathing suit on. Well, about the time she started to put it on, Jonathan comes running up the stairs.
Her dad.
And says, what are you doing in here while she's changing? What are you doing? And Pete was like, well, I'm sorry. I don't even know if he actually saw anything.
Because he had his back to her.
Because he was holding the baby.
So how the hell, and I'm sorry if this is going to upset anybody, how the hell does she know she wasn't up them stairs? She wasn't up there. She was not up there. So how does she know what Pete saw and what Pete didn't see? How does she know what Pete's intentions were and were not? Grandma, I'm going to talk to you, grandma to grandma. How is it you knew that? You don't know. Because you were not there. You were not up there. So I'm going to need you to stop. Because the first thing is, and notice she also says, and Jonathan runs upstairs. And it's one of these other ladies, these people on her at the table that say, oh, her father, why didn't you say my son? Why didn't you say my granddaughter's father? Why don't you give him she shows zero respect for who he is as a man. She does not respect her son as a man. This is my opinion. This is my opinion. Let me put my opinion banner back up because y'all gonna get me in trouble if I don't. Y'all gonna get me in trouble. Where's my opinion? Here we go. Everything stated by me is my opinion, might be by my guests as theirs, and any criminal or scandalous acts are alleged. So you have no respect for your son. When y'all hear me talk about my boy, my son, what do I say? My son. With the utmost respect. That's his position. That's my only son. This is her only son. She has no respect for him as a man. None. She has no respect for that family unit. She has no respect for her grandchildren. She has no respect for her granddaughter. She sounds demonic. Anyway, I really hate to say that, but she's a piece of work. Like, that's a woman that to me, she needs to be up underneath the jail. She said she wouldn't change. Yep, she said she wouldn't change anything that she said in that meeting. Joni committed blasphemy and fired Suzy for not reading a comment. Well, yes, but I'm going to say it's not blasphemy. To me, and this is why I don't want to. I think we need to separate the Bible and Christian talk from, let's just talk about just what's reality. Because this is where the lines get blurred and the cult kicks in. And I'm not saying you're part of a cult, Ladybug. I'm just, hear me out. At the end of the day, this woman, Joni, violated Suzy and Jonathan because they both were asked to read the comment, and neither one of them would. So it wasn't just Suzy. That went against their religious beliefs. So she already violated their constitutional rights. She violated their workplace rights. She created a hostile work environment. And in this instance, because and right here with Suzy initially, she also then, it was an unjust or without cause firing. Now, if this were Coca-Cola, they'd have a lawyer already ready to go. Them people would have got fired, and they'd have been over, knock, 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 come and knock on my door, knock, knock, knock. Where my gavel at? We'd have been before the judge. We've been before the judge. They'd have got their behind suit off. But because it's supposedly a church, and because this is a Christian organization, the BS line that we want to feed everybody is, oh, you can't take this outside the church. That's a cult. FLDS does it. Church of Scientology does it. Y'all can start naming some more religious cults that do the same thing. Don't go. It is a criminal act. When the Bible wants to talk about, let me find that for y'all, because I know what some of y'all going to have to say. I know what some of y'all going to have to say. Where it talks about how to handle disputes amongst the brethren. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know every last Bible verse. Okay, here we go, conflict. So let's look that up. Siri, show me Matthew 18, verses 15 through 17. Okay, here we go. Now it's interesting because now they want to say dealing with sin in the church. Okay, that's cool. Whatever. Dealing with sin in the church. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along so that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. In other words, take some people with you so that they can't say you said, he said, they said. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. If they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Now, I want to look at sins because this is what I honestly believe. So he in here, Matthew 18:15, some manuscripts say sins against you. I'm going to put it to you like this. If I'm going to look at the time period in which this was originally written, that would make sense. But I cannot believe that this would have been something to the level of essay. I just refuse to believe that. Because if you're going to try to tell me that God is a God of justice, what kind of justice is there if someone's been essayed, especially a child, and I'm just going to let this just go on? I'm going to tell you, I guess this is why I can't be in the church, because I ain't bringing it to you. You better make it to the police before I get your hold to you. That's what you better do. You better go turn yourself in before I get a hold to you. And that's what, as we used to say, what God loved. She was Rob Q. She was in the basement. She didn't even know Pete went up. She did not know. Ladybug, she tells the story the way she wants to tell it, and all the yes people are expected to believe it or else. Absolutely. And all these women sitting around that table. We did this the other day. I think it was, what was it, Friday night or was it Thursday night, y'all? We were last together. The part 2 that I did, maybe it was Thursday. The part 2 I did on this and some other things. Do you want to go find that part 2? I did 2 on the same day. I think it was Thursday. Spiritual abuse, part 2. I went over this. In part 1, I went over 2. And all these Catholic, I ain't gonna call them that. But they just some brainwashed yes women. I could not stand. She really does not know how to honor adult folks. Her facial expression changed during the years. I don't know. I stopped watching her a long time ago, child. Honest to Pete, I didn't. And no pun intended. I honestly started. I stopped watching Daystar years and years ago. Jehovah's Witness, thank you. Absolutely. Well, but that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with church brain. Okay. We're helping people come out of church brain. Ooh, to invite a heinous demon like that into, wow. We'll talk about that and the whole deliverance thing very soon. Okay, here we go.
And the 8-year-old was there, so he said, I'm so sorry, and left.
So what were you saying, Jonathan? Like just the difference, the discrepancy in sort of how your mom's making it sound.
Yeah, so she basically changed the story to where Israel went up with and Ari followed after, when Suzy clearly saw.
So Israel and I are sharing a room. He has his bunk and she has hers, and they know, when the other one's changing, just look away. So Israel's on his little device, he's in his bunk, not paying attention. And that's when Ariel came and starts changing. And that's when followed her immediately, goes, and started following her. So Joni's story, none of those women at the table were witness. She was not there. Joni and Marcus were down in the basement. So her and Rachel and Pete have concocted this fake story, and they went around with it. I was in the kitchen.
What happened in the kitchen when they followed up? I was in.
Okay. Did y'all catch that? Because I think they're letting us know finally. Like, first of all, they had to beep out, and y'all, I tried to divorce this audio and get behind the beep. But I don't have the tools to do it, unfortunately. But she just told us right there. Joni and Rachel and Pete concocted this story. What? So now we know who Pete is. They've not said his name because there haven't been any formal charges. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, then we're gonna go on to the next clip.
The bathroom of our room brushing my teeth when Suzy came to me and said, "Hey."
We've heard this before. Okay, I'm gonna go on and play. I'm gonna start this at about 16 because now what I want to talk about is I want to discuss with y'all the problem that I see with how this is handled and counselors within the church confines. So give me just a second.
With everything I asked her. She's 5 years old. So at that point in 2020, even though there were suspicious things, I did not 100% didn't let my mind go there at all. I truly focused on the school. When the police shut the case on the school, I was actually very disappointed because it left me with no answers, and I wanted answers. So from there, things start building, and more than anything else, the truth is my child's behavior in front of this man. Every time he came around, her body would tighten up. She was terrified. She would hide. The only place she did not want to go was Daystar.
And that's how we knew it wasn't the school, because after she told us about the abuse, she didn't have a problem going back to her school. She loved her school, but she did have a problem going to Daystar.
Yeah, the very day we met the teacher, she wanted to stay in school. So, you know, they were trying to concoct a new story with the process of what that looked like in that short period of time while the police were investigating the school. From there, certain instances started to build up, but I was too terrified to say anything to anyone. That's when Rebecca and JW came to me, and I was shocked that somebody else was also picking up on these things, but they witnessed, you know, him kissing her neck, her body, and they told me this, and I thank God for it. And then Denise was helping the family with other problems.
Now, she's talking about Denise Boggs helping the family. And then she's also talking about the other daughter and her husband saw Pete. They witnessed Pete kissing this baby on her neck and all kinds of other inappropriate. There's a way you can kiss a little girl, your niece, I'm just going to say allegedly, your young female family member on the neck, and it's not weird. And then we all grown here, right? We grown. We are grown. We know when it's improper, and we know when there's a weird energy that's behind it. Here we go.
It was like the other dynamics of the family. It had nothing to do with our child. And in one session, because I didn't really have drama with anyone, so in my session is when I unexpectedly started open up to Denise about these things. And she started to put things together, and she said, well, this sounds like a guilty person. You got to be careful. Let's all pray, because we don't want to point. This is such a horrible accusation. We never want to point fingers at anyone. So God, make it clear. That's it. We didn't have any agenda to prove him guilty or nothing. In fact, we were hoping and praying it would not.
Right, because we knew the massive rift it would cause in the family if it was a family member. So we were obviously very careful to even consider that as an option or a possibility. Like it didn't even enter our minds. Like whenever her daughter first told Suzy about the abuse.
People are asking.
Okay, so I want to stress that. So it wasn't as if they did this and they made this assumption and they came out with these allegations right away. They have a lot more patience than I would, I'll be honest with you. Once certain things were ruled out, and once my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law come to me, and for Jonathan, once my sister and brother-in-law come to me, no, we got a problem. See, now it's no longer going. Now we can. Anyway, let me see here. Okay, here we go.
And when we first went to this counselor, it was early 2024. And they, with all the details that we given the counselor, they said we need to report this to CPS. So they made the report, they made the call to CPS. CPS contacted the city we live in, which is Colleyville, Texas, the police department, and that caused them to reopen our case. Because remember, the case was opened initially, we reported it the day after she told us back in 2020. And then they closed it once they went to the school. They found out there were no adult males there working there. And our daughter, when they did a forensic interview on her, she didn't speak to them, so they shut down the case. But when we gave them all the new information related to Pete and all the different evidences and stories that kind of added up and pointed to Pete, they were very concerned, so they reopened the case. And they've said at this time that they need an outcry from her, and that's basically for her to name the perpetrator. Once she names the perpetrator, they said they can issue an arrest warrant that day. But as it is now, unfortunately, ever since she spoke to my mom, this was the day after she told us about the abuse. She went to my mom alone. Ever since then, she hasn't said a word about it and doesn't remember it.
Well, so I was with her through the counseling process. And with that, there are pictures, there's drawings. there's so many layers to this with the child. And even before, Jonathan said we started counseling in early 2024. Well, before that, earlier, we were already talking to other counselors out of state, friends recommended. And I'm thankful for this counselor too, because as we started counseling locally, our child started shutting down, started getting angry, even though we were getting some things. This older counselor told me, Miss Jennifer, she said, it's your child's well-being and health is more important than getting justice right now. And I highly, God has created our body with a defense mechanism for it to come out when it comes out, when she feels safe. Please don't push your child to the edge. And we, after still trying, and seeing the physical effect on her body, we felt a peace from God that it will come out when it needs to come out. But we just have to speak the truth.
Yeah, and one more thing. So whenever a child endures trauma like this, from all the experts that we've spoken to, the brain as a defense mechanism will a lot of times lock it away into a part of the brain that can't be accessed until typically it will become unlocked when the child that's endured abuse, when they have their first sexual experience. So it may not be until they're like in their early 20s or whenever that might be. That's a lot of times when that memory is unlocked, and then those memories come flooding back from whenever the abuse happened, when they're a child, and then they can deal with it and go through counseling. Because the way God made that as a defense mechanism, because it's just too heavy for a child to process that severe trauma. So we're not expecting necessarily to get justice against Pete. I mean, it may be many years from now, but there's not a statute of limitations for that. But again, the bigger concern is, there is a clear intent by my parents to keep the investigation into Pete from going forward and to have it shut down without him being cleared. And that to me is the biggest problem, that they didn't even want it to go through that process. They wanted just to, my mom said that she heard from God. She prayed and that Pete was innocent, and therefore case closed. We don't need to have Pete even see the forensic counselor or have any more, have him being looked into as a potential perpetrator.
And yet,
Now, we're going to camp here for a second, y'all. So I need y'all to hang with me. I want y'all to pay attention. There's 124 in the chat right now. I need to see how many. I don't know how many likes we have right now, but please, if you can you please give me some additional, how many likes do we have? We have 124 in the chat. We only have 32 likes. Can we please get those likes up? You are not going to want to miss this, and we want more people to hear this. So I want you to hear my heart now as a minister of many years, as a prophetess of many years, as a counselor and a life coach, and a coach that has coached people through various levels of trauma, and one that helps energetic healers and life coaches, spiritual healers, spiritual life coaches get their certification and keep moving and help heal. Part of what they said was right, and part of what they said was not. I'm going to make an assumption that this Miss Jennifer was most likely, but by her referring to her as Miss Jennifer, like she refers to Miss Denise as Miss Denise. And again, part 2, guys, from Thursday, you'll see that whole conversation that Laura-Lynn and Denise Boggs had. And as part of that conversation, Denise Boggs very clearly states that once she heard all this from Suzy, she brings in a forensic from North Carolina, actually, a North Carolina investigator, forensic counselor, one whose job it is to talk to everybody, especially in these child SA cases, and ascertain what's going on. Everybody answered the questions of her, came to North Carolina, answered those questions that the forensic, this is her job, the forensic investigator counselor had, except for Pete. Pete came with his wife. The two of them came as a couple, and the wife answered all of the questions, not Pete. And so what the forensic investigator, pathologist, counselor said then is, I need to talk to him alone. I don't need her in the house. I don't need her in the room, because she's going to answer for him. I'm not getting anything from him. I need to get it from him. He flat out refused to come back and answer the questions. When Denise went to Joni and Marcus, that's when they shut it down. Because she went to them and said, listen, I think her name is Debbie. Debbie said, we need Pete by himself, because Pete ain't answering no questions. The wife answering the questions. We can't clear him. This man ain't answered not a thing. Not one, not nothing. I can't clear him. That's when they shut it down. And then told these two, you're going to hear in a moment. Marcus literally tells his own child and lies to him and says he was cleared. That is reprehensible. Joni was in on it too. But what I want us to focus in on is the young lady, is the girl, is the little girl. Because while there is truth that our brains, our minds do shut off and cordon off this trauma so that we cannot access it all the time, it's not like it just lays dormant for no reason and just doesn't do nothing. It affects you. It affects how you relate to men, how you relate to males in authority. It reflects how you relate to women in authority. It's going to affect how you view your own body. It's going to affect whether or not how you perceive that the world believes or disbelieves you. It's going to affect if I don't say anything, then that's how people are going to love me. Because I'm quite sure Grandma said, now, baby, you can't. I don't think that Pete did this to you, and we can't tell lies like this because it's going to really, So I don't think this is really what happened, and so you can't tell anybody. Promise, Grandma, you won't tell anybody. And you're just going to be a good girl from now on, and you're not going to go and tempt Pete and all this because that's what's said. That's what is said. In order to cover it up. So Miss Jennifer is saying, oh, you don't need to get justice for her right now. That's a bunch of bullshit. Pardon my French, everybody. But that's a bunch of bullshit. Absolutely, Barb, I would love to believe that. But Marcus, if we're going to believe that Marcus, because everyone's still trying to say Marcus is such a great man of God, and I can't go along with that. Because a man that or a woman that does not take care of their own house, there's no greatness in them. Marcus had every ability to stand up and be a man. I don't give no passes. Now, she may have had some control over him because, he cheated on her. I'm going to give you that. I have a visceral, this is one of my biggest things is I don't condone bad behavior. I don't, especially when I know that you have all your faculties about you. You have your mind and you're supposed to be operating on a moral compass. I ain't got nothing for you. Anyway, let me go here. So I'm gonna talk about this child. So to say, well, we'll just get justice for that child later. You have now, they basically told this child, justice for her is not important. You've basically now stopped her from being able to go through her healing process. The healing process is never comfortable, y'all. The healing process is never comfortable. It is never comfortable now, 3 years later, to have to relive a situation. I'm sure there were physical things happening. I'm sure there was eczema. I'm sure there was uncomfortability. I'm sure there was rage. But mark my words, I've seen this happen too many times. Let this little girl start hitting puberty, and you're going to find, matter of fact, give her another year or two, she's going to be raging out anyway. Because you have taught her to suppress, to repress, and that her feelings, her needs, her trauma is not important. That's what you taught her. She's not going to comprehend the fact that mommy and daddy lost their job and all that, Because mommy and daddy didn't really lose their job over her. Mommy and daddy lost their job because they mama wanted them to say that it was okay that she got married to a man and she stole another woman's husband. That's what they got fired for. They didn't get fired for this. They got fired because they would not condone this woman stealing another woman's husband. I'm just gonna call a thing a thing. That's what had happened. So what Miss Jennifer inadvertently is doing is helping to create a narcissist. And it's going and the narcissistic response is as so that that child can put a different persona on to protect herself because no one's protecting her. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I'm gonna call to me. I noted this as BS counselors. They mean well, but to sit here and say, "Oh, well, there's no statute of limitations in Texas, so it don't matter." How many of y'all? I want y'all to put a 1 in the chat, or maybe I'll do a poll. Shall I do a poll on YouTube? Let me do a poll on YouTube. Let me do a poll on YouTube. Start a poll. Are you more or less likely to believe SA allegations 10 years after the fact? I'm going to start this poll and I want y'all to answer the poll. I want y'all to answer the poll. We're going to get into a deep discussion. I like where this is going. Let me help y'all. The lady that opened the Joni Table Talk show, Cindy Murdoch, I didn't know who she was. One of her besties and advisors, ex-husband's currently in prison. Oh, yes, serving a 69-year sentence for essay of a minor. Mm-mm. 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 So essay, thank you, Victoria, because you know what my next thing is going to be, and thank you. My next thing was going to be to investigate the people that have been on Daystar and to see the preachers and to see how prevalent this is amongst their brethren. You think Joni took the company car? She did. It wasn't the company car, it was the car that his father gave him. We're going to hear about this as well. I hope I put it down. Shouldn't Denise have told the police the investigation was shut down prematurely? It wasn't an official investigation, and she's here in North Carolina. All of this happened in Texas. I think they're investigating it in Texas, but the latest thing occurred in Miramar. Anyway, long story less long. Now that investigation is reopened, yes, she can give whatever information she has. Yes, the child needs to receive. Okay, brother. Marcus lied. All the preachers, I can tell you, yes, every last preacher has dirt on each other because a lot of them do the dirt together. She can feel safe, and so I want to understand. No, it is true. It is. I'm gonna tell you. I know her parents are trying to protect her, but I want to explain something to you. I'm not saying her parents are trying to protect her, and I'm not saying that they're not doing the best they know how. I'm just simply talking from an energetic perspective and as one that's dealt with children and teenagers and women and men that have had to deal with this. They know in a way that their parents are doing their best to protect them. But what happens in the mind and in the heart and in the soul is the mind, the heart, the soul. You believe that we are eternal beings, right? So we're eternal beings and we're spiritual beings born into having this human experience. We're born into a human body. We start out as a child. However, our eternal being has been here. Our spirit, there's no end nor there's no beginning nor is there end to spirit. And how can I also prove that to you? Because energy can neither be destroyed nor denied, nor destroyed nor created. So there, you existed in the ether before you came into your mother's womb, and before the quickening of the fetus, the baby, before the quickening and the spirit enters into the body, you were an eternal being. You were an eternal being. Even in Jeremiah, right? God states that he knew you before you were born. And that he anointed you, right? He set you apart for a purpose. So everything's already been laid out before you come here. Now, that eternal being knows this ain't right. That eternal being knows what's happening in this little girl. The eternal being knows this is not right. The eternal being can't do anything with the physical body because the physical body can't protect, right? Can't fight it off. So you're going along and having your human experience, and you tell your parents, and then you talk to grandma, and grandma, just hear me out. Da 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 da. I don't tell anything. And now, no, I don't have to go around this person, but whenever I am around this person, I don't have to be alone with this person. But whenever I am around, I need to act out in some way so that my parents can know, even though grandma told me to shut up, my parents can know this is the person. I need an adult to see it, not only say this is the person, but I need an adult to protect me. Because 3 years have now passed since this latest incident, and nothing happened. The mind plays weird tricks on you. So the mind has decided, and I know this for a fact now because of what they said, that now she doesn't remember. She has shut it completely down because there's no point in having the memory. And I'm going to also tell you from my own experience. Now everybody can have their own opinion. I'm just telling you from my own experience. It is not always just when there's another encounter that happens later on. He goes on to say maybe in her 20s. Honey, child, no, she's going to explore this way earlier than her 20s because this has already been awakened within her and would not been dealt with properly. So when the being knows that they're safe enough, truly safe, and they find a safe landing space to tell its story, it will open up. But right now, everyone's just like, what? Right? She's going to need to know that not only is it okay for her to tell, but her grandmother, unfortunately, did not have her best interest at heart. We're sorry that this has occurred, and she may need to undergo hypnotherapy in order to do so. If Joni's a narcissist and no one, well, honey, there's so many narcissists running around. I'm going to tell you that Marcus was probably a narcissist in and of itself, himself. He was just a different type. Thank you, Ladybug. Who's she? I'm just saying legally, you asked me a legal question. I'm assuming you mean Denise. If I'm playing all of this out, you guys will have to play this on your own. I can see why they believed. There's no reason not to believe. I can see why that they were brainwashed and the beat down into submission. I get it. The parents, I get it. If there's no real quote unquote proof. And if the investigation was not allowed to continue, I don't know if Denise legally could do that, or Debbie, the actual investigator, legally. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but my gut tells me I'm not sure. What ends up happening is when they go to another counselor, once they finally find out from Denise that the thing never really went through, and they find out that their parents lied, and then they went to a counselor, and the counselor said, "Oh, we got to go to CPS," and CPS kicked in. I feel the same way. I feel like this. I feel very strongly that she isn't. If there is a crime, I would think that there should be a state statute that would allow for accomplices. I think if this does turn out to be prosecuted, and we now know that she had knowledge or impeded an investigation, whether it be impeded even an internal investigation, you could potentially, because she would have talked to her grandchild, if there's any way to prove, if the grandchild says, "Yeah, I told grandma who it was, but she told me not to tell," then that's impeding a criminal investigation. That's problematic. Absolutely. But it even goes deeper than that's a real deep discussion. It goes way deeper than that, right? And to me, this, what we now know to be what's taught, is such like Puritan uh, Puritan European BS. I remember who he was. I remember him. Is she related to the other Murdoch? God, there was a preacher Murdoch. She related to him? Yes, the little girl freaks out repeatedly around Pete. That's why they stopped taking her to Daystar. They stopped like doing the family functions with the kids. Like, memories can come and go, and I'm sure that they, right. But my point is while it is relatively fresh, and while there's a fresh experience, a fresh investigation, while we have all this going on, now is the time to get to those memories. In the long run, she'll be better off if we can begin the healing process now at 8-ish, 8, 9. We can get the healing process accomplished a lot quicker now, with a lot more success than if we wait. Pete has a little baby girl now. Maybe he knows some secrets himself, so he's protected. He won't be protected if we unlock that little girl's memory. I believe, yeah, Denise. So I think Denise has gone. From what I understand from the other interview, though, it appears to me Denise is helping the investigation. Jonathan and Suzy are responsible to hire their own psychiatrist. They have, and it is their own psychiatrists and counselors that are telling them, "Don't push it. There's no statute of limitations." They are now. So that's why I went to this. Let's see, how we done with the poll? How we doing? So 58 of you say you are more. You guys, no. Are you guys really? I'm not trying to call. I only got 19 votes. I need y'all. There's 79 to 100 of y'all in this chat right now. I need y'all to vote. You're going to tell me that 10 years from now, you are more likely to believe essay allegations than right now? Because that's not what I see in the world. But maybe times have changed. Maybe times have changed. Oh, he's the brother-in-law. Okay, all right. See, I'll be no. She's married to David, Mike Murdoch's brother. Okay, but her other husband was this other man. I'm gonna look him up, Victoria. Thank you for your information. Got it. Okay. Anyway, so this is what I've seen, and I'm just telling you from when I work with people and whatnot. This is what I know to be true. On that note, guys, I need to get a little bit more to drink. Okay, we have a few more things I'm gonna go through today. Let me see. Let me go through a couple things, and then I need to take a quick break. Mike, so she's Mike Murdoch's sister-in-law. Okay. Perpetrator 2740. Let's look at what. Oh my gosh. No, here we go. We're gonna go to 26. We're gonna pick this up at 26. This is the heartbreaking part about Marcus lying. Here we go.
The kingdom, here was this precious woman, Esther. And Mordecai said to her, do not think that if you remain silent, that this will not also harm you and your life will be taken. And there's just, whenever I think of Rebecca, I think she's in quite a position right now, but she's also an Esther. And I see your tears, and I think that means you all love her. And yeah, you were actually on the beach the next day, was it? Or was it that same day that this happened?
Right after.
What, and what was
We
that
held
like
each
being
other.
on the beach? Mm-hmm.
We just held each other. We cried. JW was hugging Jonathan, and Rebecca's more of a warrior. She's like, I'm gonna confront Dad. And so we were in the room with Jonathan, me, Becca, and JW, and we didn't really talk to Marcus and Joni all day. It's like the process in this family had always been, if something bad happens, let's pretend it didn't, let's move on. For the sake of the ministry, for family unity.
Right.
Jonathan being the oldest, he carried 1,000-pound weight of like, what do I do to keep everything united?
Yeah.
Which thank God he set us free from now in a false sense. So that evening, Rebecca was like, come on, Suzy, we're going. And we go, and Marcus was really angry. I will say this, through all the years, Marcus has never raised his voice at me. He's never been angry. He's always been tender and gentle. Even if he scolded everyone else, he would turn. Even that day, he scolded everyone. You get out, you get out. And he'd look at me and, he'd be gentle.
Mm-hmm.
So I was used to that with Marcus. And that day, though, I saw a very different side. He had to protect all he worked his whole life to build. I saw a different man. And that's why I was thinking that, Rebecca, you're wasting your time. There's things have never changed to this point. Why would it change now? And he said exactly that. I'll do what I have to do to protect what I have to. And
Marcus said, in this moment, I will do what I have to do to protect what I have built. This is disgusting. Your grandchild has been allegedly, potentially SA'd by a close family member that I think we can all kind of figure out by now is most likely his another son-in-law, because all the pieces fit there. Allegedly, we don't have any proof of that, but Pete, very close to the family or in the family, and your first instinct is to protect what you built. That's why I said this is the problem when we have large churches or churches, period. For some, not all, you become so focused on protecting what you made, as if you made it on your own, as if it wasn't supposed to be your ministry and your purpose, and you want to protect that over your family and over your brand and over everything else. You're willing to sacrifice the family, the children and the grandchildren on the altar of the church.
Rebecca, she made some pretty strong statements to me after that, but how God brings justice and things rolled out how they did. But all that to say, yes, Rebecca has always been a sister to me. So, even if she were to speak up and say, oh, I have no part in this and I don't know anything, it would change no part of my love for her, because again, in the end, my justice comes from the Lord.
That is beautiful. I think that I'd like to ask about Rachel, but I have mentioned on a couple broadcasts about some. Obviously, the relationship between you and her has fallen because she's posting that you blocked her, and other people are commenting, "Well, you're putting stuff up about her daughter." That this has been very difficult. Yeah.
Yes. With Rachel, I had no favorites. Rebecca and I are very similar in personality. Joni and Rachel are very, very similar in personality. They're type A, very dominant. versus Becca and I are type B, very easy, go with the flow. Fun is the main priority in our lives. Laugh. Anyone at Daystar that works there could tell you this. So, that's why at different points we wanted to leave Daystar. It was too difficult. When we would do our strength finder tests, we had very similar answers. Everyone else was like strategy, competition, this and that. Me and Becca, empathy, woo, includer, positivity. So we didn't fit in. So in those terms, it was easier with Becca. But with Rachel, God is my witness. I put my whole heart to always pull her. Not that I'm better than her, but my last conversation with Rachel, my real conversation was 4 hours long at Daystar. Left my kids at home with Jonathan. We sat for 4 hours, and I was constantly using scripture. And all the scriptures in the book of James talks about selfish ambition, jealousy. It leads to all evil. Daystar is not yours. It's not mine. It's God's. It's about the millions of people who need the gospel. So this is not about photo shoots. This is not. And I know I was hated for it. I was always seen as, oh, she's always beating the Bible on us. So there was that strain. And then again, when I've seen a pattern of when people are attacked by these, when people are attacked, it turns into a smear campaign. So I thank God for wise people who already prepared my heart, saying that, hey, when you tell the truth, be prepared for a few things. Number one, they will twist the story completely, because for them, it's not about what's right before God. For them, it is public opinion. Who wins? Everything is a competition. Who wins? So I had to prepare my heart for that. Most people will walk away silently. These wouldn't. And the next thing was that nothing is below the belt. They will use your children. They will destroy you. They can do anything. So you have to hold on to God being your defender. And so for these reasons, with me and Rachel, I had to block to, I've given years of speaking God's word, and I had to protect my heart from there.
Then 2 days later, November 18th, 2023, we get a call from Miss Denise Boggs. And in that call, she tells us, and now this is the first time we ever knew this fact, she tells us that Pete had never been cleared by Miss Debbie Leonard, the forensic counselor. And so this sent a complete shock into Suzy and me, because again, my father had sat me down back in August of 2021, and he said that Pete had been cleared and he was innocent by this forensic counselor. To find out my father had lied. And it was just a shock. And again, my father, I would never want to dishonor him. I think he was an incredible man of God. Obviously, he built an incredible network. God used him mightily. He saved many people. But the one weakness it seems like he had, well, he obviously had one moral failing, obviously, my mother. But besides that, the one major weakness he had was that he wanted to protect the billion-dollar empire at the expense of my daughter. And again, I could see maybe how he could think that's the greater good. You have this mega empire that's reaching millions of people. You don't want that to be tarnished with the thought that one of the family members could have essayed, his grandchild. But the fact that he didn't want to find out the truth, that he shut down the investigation, was obviously just completely shocking and troubling. And I believe that God, he's a righteous God.
Your family has grappled with.
Okay. We got to sit there for 1 second, and then I'm going to actually play I need to get some more water, so I don't want you to go anywhere. I don't want you to go anywhere. I'll replay that if you want me to. I have to play it faster in some places because I don't want to get copyright struck. Okay, so I do have to transform it in some way, but I will go backwards a little bit and slow that down when we get back. No problem, Jimmy. And I'm not saying that Marcus is or isn't creepy or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm matter of fact, I'm not necessarily talking about Marcus. But I want something to be really recognized here. Out of his own mouth, Jonathan is saying, my father lied and he was willing to sacrifice my child. Out of his own mouth. Out of his own mouth. Some of you have heard me say this before. I'll say it again. One of the most prolific things I ever heard Benny Hinn say when I was backstage at event was to never sacrifice your family at the altar of the church. Never sacrifice your family at the altar of the church. That's exactly what happened. I cannot sit here, and maybe I'm being bogus. I don't know. Y'all can call me out on it if you want to. But I have a problem when the church elevates and says the greatest men in the Bible. When you think about that, the greats, what's one of the greats' names? One of the very top one, a man after God's own heart, is King David. King David literally had a man killed on the battlefield so that he could cover up the fact that he had impregnated his wife and then took the man's wife, Uriah's wife. Right? Bathsheba? Right? We exalt him. I'm not going to say we could, I'm exalt. Now, I could give you the whole storyline. Cool. He wasn't perfect. Cool. He really, we can go back to the good David and Goliath and yada da 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 and the Saul days and da 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 da. I mean, we could find a whole bunch of great stuff he did. But why is that considered to be one of the greatest men? And yet Jezebel is a heifer. Why isn't the Queen of Sheba, who pretty much bailed out Solomon, if you could look at it historically, Sheba brought a lot of gold up to Israel from Africa. Andrea, I can't with you. Only get the vote. We haven't earned that voting right yet. Why? Most of the great men either cheated on their wives, took somebody else's wife, killed people for just random reasons. Like it just what? Get out of here. But yet they're still great men of God. No. You may have done great things, but when you say someone is a man or a woman of God, that should mean something. That should mean more than just I built a big church or I built a big network or I built a this or I did a that. That should mean more than supposedly, reportedly, I led so many people to the Lord. Because let me ask you a question. Just like when we have prosecutors and stuff like that and judges that we find have done immoral or illegal acts and they have bent the law and bent the rules, do you know what happens? Then all or officers, police officers or investigators, detectives, whatnot, do you know what we find when we find out that they've cheated or they've bent the rules or they've done people wrong and they've broken the law? Do you know what ends up happening? All the cases that they worked on end up getting reopened. Guys, please don't shout. When I get a chance, I'll reword the poll. Please don't shout. Okay? Thank you. So they've done all these things. So you know what happens? Like I said, when you have this happen in the court system and in the legal system and just in natural, right? We end up reopening all these cases, and some people potentially that had actually committed the crimes would go free. Why would they be set free? Because we have a situation where we have someone who is supposed to uphold the law and be moral and be integral and all of that. We end up then having to rethink and relook at everything because now we have to question their morality or their integrity. It will be the same thing for people that followed along up behind Joni and Marcus Lamb. It has been this, I've seen this happen far too many times. It will be the same thing. It was the same thing when Jimmy Swaggart had issues. It's the same thing when there's been financial discussions, when in question, right, of people's finances and things like that, then people that came to know the Lord through that process, through them, then they question, well, what is this even right? Is this even true? And you'll find that there's a falling away rather than people just running and saying, well, that's okay, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to question it. And honestly, by rights, they should question the structure and the money and the business of Christianity. Because unfortunately, what has happened in this case, and we see it on display, is that the structure, the money, and all of that is way more important than actually helping humanity, than actually ministering, than actually doing good. Because if my empire falls because I let a fox in the hen house, and I'm not trying to be funny, but because what happened is someone ends up harming my family, the youngest and the most vulnerable. She's not important. I will protect the billion-dollar business when honestly, I think everybody here would have probably ended up having, now this is his legacy. Because I think everybody would have ended up being happier. And they would have said, you know what? I have much more respect because he stood up and said, no, I'm not going to sacrifice my granddaughter. Let me answer a few more questions, and I do need to grab some water, okay? That's right, Sister Michelle. When David's daughter was essayed, he sent her away and punished his son for defending his sister's honor. This is a disgusting human being. So I guess that's perfect. So I guess this is the example we're going by, right? This was a great man of God. Out of here. That's true. I understand. I saw that already. That means keep your wives and kids away from from them and your bank. Amen to that. If Joni Lamb was faced with the Lord saying, I never knew you leave for me, how would Joni's behavior change? I don't know. Because I don't even know what Lord she prays to. I don't know who she praying to. I don't know who she's working with. Because I'm going to tell you something. This whole situation, this is not of a frequency of love. This is not the frequency of creation. This is the frequency of destruction. So I have no idea how she's operating. I'm going to venture to tell you. Now, I'm going to tell you, my creator don't know her. Not like that. My creator knows her because she's serving the purpose. This is gonna blow some of y'all minds. She's actually doing what she already intended to do when she first came here. And if her purpose at the end of the day was to blow the lid off of the facade, I'm gonna let y'all sit with that for a minute. Y'all probably not gonna like that. One controversial question I've heard, man. Why is the child whose mother is a person of color the one that's the altar and the sacrifice? Oh, Victoria. Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna hold you. I thought about that. Because Suzy talks a lot about how she's from her family's different, she's from a different culture. They don't do the passive aggressive stuff, all that. I thought about that. And I think it has less to do with race and more just to simply do with I'm choosing to believe that because I don't go to race first. Because I really don't believe that a lot of people go to race first in these situations. Like I don't. I think because Marcus has got something. Marcus had something in him too. He wasn't all the way all white. Y'all believe y'all what you want to believe, but that man wasn't all the way white. I can tell you that. I can tell from looking at him. I think it had just had simply more to do with we have to protect the empire. I don't think it would have mattered because she didn't. Because Marcus and Joni didn't respect their own biological blood son. They wouldn't have cared. I agree. Yes, fruit means to me guidance on demand, but truth is they're not seeking truth. They're seeking money. They're seeking power. They're seeking all these other things. Oh, when they want women to clear their name, ooh, ooh. But can we just say one thing? Pete needs to face the judge and the jury of his peers. If this is true, which I believe that it is, he needs to face them here. I can't. Bob, I don't mean no harm. I'm not really coming at you, but I want this known and said. What we not gonna do is we not gonna do the sweet by and by. What we not gonna see. This is how the church covers this mess up. Well, God is a just God. God is a God of justice. He's going to face eternity. I'm gonna need you to. I'm gonna need you to pay for some of this right now. I'm gonna need your behind hemmed up right here. I'm gonna need you to pay in this lifetime for what you've done. I'm gonna need you to face a judge and a jury because you've done a criminal act against a child. How church hurt festers, how injury festers, how trauma festers in the church is we wash it under the rug and we say Jesus will take care of it. When in fact can we please get back to the reality that Jesus left us, Yeshua, the whole deal was that we were imbued and endowed with power and told exactly what to do. Listen, they took it to the person didn't do nothing. Two more people they took, they didn't do nothing. Took it to the elders of the church, didn't do nothing. So now what does Matthew 18:15 through 17 say? Treat him like a pagan. So many of you drag his behind out to the back door. He got to go. Period. Point blank. We cannot keep allowing this and saying it's going to be handled in the sweet by and by. Because you have injured people here. You have hurt people here. You have a young girl's life, the trajectory of which has been changed. And if you do not do anything to intervene in it right now, it is not going to be pretty, not only for her, but you have started or continued generational issues. You have either started in her and set in motion a generational trauma that will reside in her DNA and get passed on to her kids if it is not arrested right now, or you are continuing a generational situation, a generational trauma. I haven't really investigated enough energetically to tell you if this is generational or not. I will do so at some point and I'll let you know what I hear. However, you're most likely perpetuating something that's been already done. So you either can arrest it right here so it doesn't pass on to her generations, or you could just hope that she deals with it later. But at either way, oh boy, gotta pay. There's just nothing, there's nothing else. There's nothing else. She's showing where the foothold is. Absolutely. There are many in the church that are fully conscious that they're on the wrong team and misleading. Absolutely. And she's self-serving herself. Not Rico, Andrea. Where did Rico? There could be Rico here. Absolutely. Rebecca saw the signs. Yep. Yeah, they did. So I'm glad that Victoria, we were able to clear this up because I really don't feel like it's about that. It doesn't. It doesn't. I believe that too. And I don't know why Rachel's husband, maybe somebody can tell me if that's who Pete is. So I'll put it to you like this, because I ain't trying to get sued. If somebody can give me a background of, and you don't have to type it in here, but send me at admin@heartofinspiration.net. I'll put it back in the chat again. If someone can give me a lowdown, a rundown of Rachel, Rachel and her husband, like, why are they so the favored? I don't know. Yes, thank you. You don't have to be quiet, baby. Marcus took advantage of Suzy because she was so subservient. Yes. I think that they were yes, because Suzy often recounts like this jealousy where maybe Rachel was trying to take Jonathan's spot as going to be the leader, whatever. And I think Suzy was beat down to be so subservient. Suzy didn't want to be subservient. Okay, guys, let me grab some water in the meantime, in between time, and please don't leave. I just need a couple minutes. Please don't leave me. I'm going to play. It's a real quick video. I just need a minute. Maybe I'll get some tea. And this video, if you want to be a part of the Heal the Hurt Army, you've heard me talk a few times here about how I help people learn how to deal with these situations, right? Again, I've been ordained for 26 years, operated in ministry before then. We're about in 2025, we're going to be doing a Heal the Hurt 2025 tour where I will be coming to an area near you. We're beginning to put this in place right now. I'm getting my music ministry together, where people who have been church hurt, and that could mean any type of church hurt, where you can come and we can get some healing started. But I can't do that alone. And so I'm hoping that some of you will find some interest in learning how to deal with these things and being a part of my Heal the Hurt Army. So I'm just going to ask you to watch this really quick while I go and get some more water and some tea, okay? Here we go. Have you been the victim of church hurt? Have you suffered at the hands of any leadership in the church? And that could be physical, mental, emotional, intimate, financial harm. Has any of that come to you over the time period that you've been in the church? Have you been a part of various organizations only to find out that there was a misconstruing or a misuse of the Bible in a way, and its true meaning in the way that then ends up harming, brainwashing? It just feels like it's kind of a cult situation. Have you been because of who you are, right? Have you been used? Have you been harmed, hurt? Have you suffered trauma at the hands, especially of leadership of the church? If any of that fits you, then I'm talking to you. My name is Dr. Lisa Brewer, but you can drop the doctor, okay? I have been a minister, an ordained minister now for 26 years in the non-denominational charismatic church. I operated in the office of the prophetess. I did go around the country. I've been a youth pastor. I've ministered to thousands, probably tens of thousands at this point. But I walked away from the church a while ago, a while ago, and there were a number of things that happened to me as far as church hurt is concerned. But then I discovered a true relationship with that whom created me. I discovered a true relationship with spirit, true relationship with creator, and that helped to heal the church hurt, that helped to heal the surrogate daddy wounds, that helped to heal the I'm not good enough wounds, that helped to heal the I will always be a sinner. I will never truly be saved. That helped to heal the brainwashing and kind of cultic usage of the word of God. Basically, what I want to do for you right now is I want to give you an opportunity. If you've come through that healing, I want you to consider becoming a part of the Heal the Hurt Army. I am certifying and helping people learn how to be spiritual life coaches, specifically to help people with church hurt, but you can be helping people with other things. Then you're going to be trained in things like inner child healing. You're going to be trained in how our spirits actually operate. You're going to be trained in narcissistic abuse, how to deal with physical trauma, and how that then shows up as spiritual or energetic trauma. So if you want to help others heal from church hurt, if you want to be part of the Heal the Hurt Army, then I want you to click the link. There's going to be a link down below somewhere. We're going to put a QR code. If you're watching on TV or something, scan the QR code and to schedule some time with me so we can talk about it and talk about whether or not becoming a spiritual life coach and going through the certification program is right for you. I can't wait to meet you. Can't wait to talk to you. Be blessed. It was never your fault. I love you. All righty. I'm back. Thanks, guys. Hey, Barb, I am actually in Greensboro, North Carolina, by way of, but I'm born and raised. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, raised in Wisconsin, lived in Illinois for about 14, 15 years where I attended school. Then I moved back to Wisconsin, raised the kids there, bought a house outside of Madison, and then we moved here not too long ago. So there we go. All right. So that's where I'm from. I love Missouri. I've driven through there many times, stopped more than once, been to St. Louis more than once. Yeah. Yeah, Rachel's like her mom. That's what Suzy said. Thank you, honey. Okay, went through that. I am so sorry, honey. Struggling hungry. Good night, darling. Okay, thank you. I know we've been on for 2 hours, guys. We're not going to be on too much longer. Thank you so much, Sister Michelle. Okay. Let me just remind everyone that this is copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Okay, so we have been looking at the Laura-Lynn Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson's live stream she did yesterday. It was a recording. It was a live replay of a recorded conversation she had with Johnson and Suzy Lamb. Thus far, we have gone through ad nauseum, right? How this whole situation, how it kind of began to play out with their daughter, with their granddaughter, and then why they ended up leaving. We're going to dive into just a few more things here. So we're going to talk about the boundaries, right? And how once they set up boundaries, I'm going to talk about that. No, we're not. We're going to move that one. We're going to go that one. We're going to go actually to the submit or lose your job. I do want to actually kind of touch on these honeymoon charges. And there might be a few other things as we kind of see fit that we need to. I do the training actually it's all over the internet. I do it virtually. I've had a virtual academy, Barb. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. It's a virtual thing. So if you want to become that type of a healer, then there's a link down below. I'll try to put it in the chat as well. And let's have a conversation about that. But I would love to come to Missouri and do at least one of my Heal the Hurt 2025 events as well. Do training every Thursday. Yes, it's somewhat like that. It would be every Wednesday, but yes, I do training right now every Wednesday, and in the evening. So I would love to speak with you, Barb. And I will. Let me find that in the chat. Okay, here we go. Control C. Okay. All right. So I put that link in the chat on YouTube. Yep, the whole link got in there. And we can discuss what that looks like. And then you guys can also Christina actually went through some of my training. Actually, I don't need to get rid of anything. Thank you, Girl Friday. Appreciate you. I don't need to get rid of anything, love. Absolutely. All right. Here we go. Get rid of the Buddha statue. And actually, Girl Friday, just so you know, she's not Buddha. No, she's not Buddha. She is, however, called a lava goddess. And what's on her are the chakras. So you know how sometimes when you guys are praying and you see certain colors of light, it corresponds to energy centers within your being. Corresponds to energy centers within your being. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? Because there's nothing that I've said here today or nothing that I'm doing that is over on my other here. Let me help you guys. Over here, that is the tree of life right there. There's an ankh right there. There's more chakras right there. There's my crown. There's a dream catcher. But you know what you're not going to find within me? You're not going to find someone that's going to tell you that you need to submit and be subservient and sacrifice your children or yourself. Jesus made the sacrifice, right, according to Christianity. Exactly. Anyway, let's continue, shall we? We've been together for 2 hours, and hopefully by now you guys have heard my heart. Okay, let's get to where they tell them to submit or lose their job, shall we? That's about 37. Let's start about 36:58. Here we go. It's been sitting for a minute. Just give us a second. Come on. I might have to take it on and bring it back in.
Yes, our focus is more on exposing the cover up and bringing accountability. But I do know that God will take us full circle whenever the time comes, and that's where
What do you mean you weren't allowed to talk to a person that's investigating your own child's essay? Who told you you're not allowed?
Joni, just if you want to show me your submission and you have the right heart before God to do what's right, then you will let this go, because that is surrendering it to God.
And my father, he told me again, if you believe Pete had done this, then you need to get another job. So that was his way of basically saying, don't talk about it, don't question it. Pete has been cleared. Let's move on and submit. So
we did try to call
that
her.
was the line that was drawn.
We did try to call her and didn't get an answer, and we just thought, okay, you know what, God will help us at the right time.
You know, Jonathan, you said something a few minutes ago, and I thought I made a mental note that I want to ask you about that. You grew up and idolized your parents and you thought great of them. You have this family intact. You're doing this huge work for God. But you said you did know that if you went against them, there would be retribution. There would be, something like, so obviously they were a disciplinary kind of parents. Like, you knew if you did wrong, you're going to get punished.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and that I think is a great thing for as long as you're a child. But once you become an adult, the dynamic changes. You're not in that adult-child relationship. So I think that adult-child relationship, some of the aspects of that may have remained, into our young adulthood, and the lines would sometimes get blurred between mother, father, and son, and CEO, employee, and obviously just the dynamic of all of us all working together as a family. My mom and dad preached as like probably their greatest desire, their greatest thing that they asked for was family unity. But the problem is sometimes you can't have family unity if something is out of line. Like in this case, I mean, you can't necessarily align with someone if you believe someone in the family is someone who did something very harmful to your daughter. So it just became a very difficult to try to do our best to work within the family and move on, and as best as we could to put it behind us. And that's kind of what happened.
And then there was really two things. There was this difficult situation, which happened before the passing of your father. And then there's the introduction of Doug. And you, Jonathan, have really wrestled, can I say wrestled, even trying to see how this is okay.
Yeah, that's right, Laura-Lynn. So in that meeting, Jimmy again was brought in. They had already made up their mind. Jimmy was going to move forward marrying them. And in that meeting, they were going to do whatever they could to get us in line, if you will, to support the marriage. And ultimately, they wanted to have it to where I would walk my mother down the aisle to show that, public seal of approval. And again, in that meeting, it came up that wouldn't the most pleasing thing before the Lord be for Doug to reconcile with his ex-wife, Lisa? And unfortunately, that brought up just a very kind of unfortunate reaction by Doug.
Yeah, he got pretty heated. I noticed at that point, like he was, I don't know where he was in the room, but he was hard to hear. And then all of a sudden he is extremely angry and making all kinds of claims about abandonment, being abused. The interesting thing though, from talking to Miss Denise is that is not the story she got. And you made a point that I thought was good, Jonathan. You said, but Doug's the best of the best. This is a very smart, intelligent man who's like a psychologist, basically, sex therapist. You were saying, like, how do we know?
Yeah, I believe he would know exactly what to say and what to do, to accomplish his means, which I believe is capturing the ultimate prize, which is my mother. But yeah, my point was, wouldn't it be the best thing to get back with Lisa? And then I said, if you move forward with this marriage, Mom, how did we lose the ability to preach the uncompromised truth of the Word of God, that God is not for divorce? He wants people to reconcile and to get back and restore marriages. And it's so sad because of this whole relationship. My mother went on this campaign with different podcasters and different guests on the show, and now she's, instead of talking about restoring marriages, it's almost like she's doing her best to justify divorce and to talk about how that's okay a lot of times. There's a clip of her, going on with Tim Ross and talking about that. So it's just sad that that's now the narrative that she's pushing. And, before, back when she was married to my father, she was probably one of the strongest people when it came to her conviction and believing and fighting for marriage and doing whatever it takes. And obviously my mother endured horrible affair by my father, I think for about a 7-year period. And she had every right to leave the marriage, in that case, biblically, because of the adultery. And she made the decision to fight for her marriage. And that was so honorable. And obviously God blessed her many times.
Hold on. I want to say this one time and one time only. Redeemed, that is not the discussion right now. Y'all, this is just what trips me out sometimes with Christian folk. With people in general. I'm not even going to pick on the Christian folk today. I'll be nice. With people in general. We're having a whole discussion about something else over here. I didn't call for you. I didn't send for you. We ain't talking about we're not talking about abortion. Why are you interjecting any discussion about abortion? If that's what you want to talk about, you can turn on your camera just like I did, and you can go on YouTube because you have a channel, and you can talk about that. I'm not. That's not what I'm talking about. Covering up other crap. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we're dealing with right here, right now. Can we stay on topic? And if that's not the topic you want to talk about, beloved, go turn your camera on. Go turn your camera on. Because I'm going to toss something else out at you, Redeemed. More of those millions look like me. Those clinics were put in our neighborhoods for eugenics. And this is exactly why it's in the situation that it's in. So if you believe God's going to take care of the Daystar mess, then I want you to believe that God's going to take care of the abortion mess. Okay? Thank you very much. Go turn your camera on. Go turn your camera on and do your own thing. Okay. All right. Let's go here. I can see where this is degenerating. See, this is why I try to stay on only for an hour because y'all can't handle more than that. I believe based on my experience, if you want to talk to HY, if you want to talk to the mission uncomfortable, you can say that that's on the table. Absolutely. Everyone's journey can and should be different. Listen, we are all called to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. I think, can I say something to you, Victoria? I think if you're struggling with your faith, this is what I think one should do. Just sit, be quiet, and listen, and allow your spirit to commune with Creator. Allow your spirit to commune with. You know how in Genesis it talks about how Adam and even Eve walked in the evening, in the cool of the evening with God, and they talked. You can walk in the cool of your evening and talk and work out your faith, work out your salvation, right? Work out your relationship. This is less about faith and more about opening yourself up to true relationship with that which created you. Because had they been listening less about on the faith tip and more on this is what my relationship says, and so this is how we're going to do it. If all the people involved were doing that little girl either wouldn't have gotten hurt or she would have already gotten justice. Amen. D, you're not ready for the answer to that. And listen, let me tell you something. I taught that for 26 years. Well, actually for 22. I taught that. And if that is what you find solace in, if that faith and that road to having relationship with Creator or achieving atonement at one mint of one mind and in one mind with, right? Then I have no problem with that. None at all. I honor that and I honor your belief. Okay? Right. Eugenics, it's absolutely it the reality of why Planned Parenthood was created and all of these things, the reality of it is absolutely disgusting. Thank you, Avery. I'm not sure which response that was for, but that's okay, sweetheart. All right. So, can we go to the honeymoon charges next? I wanted to deal with that, and I don't have much more in this. There's a lot here, but this is a 2-hour interview, guys. I want you to go into that. Okay? I want you to really watch this. I did listen, I think Shafar a while ago back. I have listened to the hour and a half. It is disgusting. The hour and a half spiritual abuse. That's ridiculous. So we know that Marcus had an affair for 7 years. And but also Doug Weiss counseled them. This is just disgusting. Let me see here. Encouraged the panel. Let me see here. Let's go to 1 hour, roughly about an hour, and let's go a little bit before then and pick it up. Here we go.
But obviously all these programmers have been contacted and they hear Joni's story of rebellion and this and that, and that's okay. God has to deal with that. But we were told by somebody yesterday, Joni called them and notice this thing that always happens with them. They'll always take a story and it's never consistent. It'll always change and evolve over time. So with us, it's like, oh, now it's a whole new different story just because Julie didn't mention a baby to protect that baby's identity. We thought they'd be happy about that. But now with Lisa, now she's telling people, well, actually Lisa just wanted the money. So Doug, this is what we were told. We were told that Doug gave her an NDA and $2 million. That's the information we were given. I have no proof of that at all. But he did that to, be a generous, good husband. And now it's been turned on her that she didn't want Doug. She just wanted the money. So I just want you to see like how these things keep happening. Like always attack the victim and blame them. Oh, you wanted money. You wanted power. A counselor taught me this, that always watch a narcissist. Their accusations are their confessions. But most people are not aware of these things. Most normal, innocent people just live their daily lives. And so they don't understand the manipulation tactics. And that's why I believe one part of our story is God teaching the body of Christ, the sheep, to not be so innocent, but to learn these tactics of the enemy.
Yes. And, when we look at the whole timeline, it does, Julie Royce has released the receipts for the honeymoon. And, if we could just give everyone a timeline, because it gets a bit complex, but your father died November 30th, 2021. By June of 2022, your mom says that she, was enjoying, hearing from Doug, and she also shared that with me when I was on set, that she began to realize she just enjoyed the talks, the calls. It wasn't a dating thing, but it was warm and they were talking and she enjoyed that. But by July, Doug is asking Miss Denise to please, in July, he's saying, I love my wife and, would you speak with her? Asking Miss Denise, would you speak with my wife? And I think, I do think there's hope. By August, Lisa has come in to Miss Denise and they've had their 3 days, as stated in this letter here. And then by what we see on the receipts for purchasing the down payment of the honeymoon, that's by October, I believe. The first receipt, the down payment for the honeymoon is October. So things have progressed. So we got, July, August, September, we're engaged, or we're thinking about getting married by October, but we don't announce our engagement until December 31st or New Year's,
Yeah. Actually, Miss Laura, that was actually something that I didn't even calculate until I don't know if it was you or somebody else until yesterday, that my mom put the down payment for the honeymoon 2 months before she was even engaged. So, I mean, that just showed you how quickly she was working towards this marriage, that she had already decided to plan her honeymoon before the engagement. And so they get engaged December 31st of 2022. And again, there's just a lot of secrecy and deception around the relationship that most normal people, when they get engaged, they want to shout it to the rooftops. But because my mother was marrying Doug, and he was coming off a divorce, she kept it quiet. She waited. It wasn't until March of 2023 that she publicly announced her engagement to Doug. So you have all of January, all of February, and half of March, where the world doesn't know, but she's engaged to Doug. And then she needed that time to kind of get everything aligned. She got with Jimmy, and they came up with this idea to have Jimmy Evans come on her table talk show and do the announcement. But before they announced that Doug was her fiance, Jimmy did the infamous, it's okay to get divorced because of the 4 A's: addiction, adultery, abuse, and abandonment, and did that whole, justification of the marriage. And then they introduced Doug at the end of the show.
And they took
So
that
again,
show
like,
down.
Oh, we know why.
They took the show down because
Lisa spoke up for herself.
Lisa, she was made to be
Bad guy.
represented in a very bad light, unfairly to her, and she asked that they take it down, so they did. So that program is not even on Daystar's website anymore.
Pretty sure what probably happened, to be honest with you, is she said, I'm gonna sue y'all. That's what I'm pretty sure happened. Let me see. I have got to find where they talk about the fact that they do not, that he did not get anything from his father's estate. Vice president. Okay, here we go.
Down. Do you have any understanding of that situation?
This
Yeah,
came
so
up
I voiced my
reimbursement.
concern at the August 2023 board meeting. I just said, this isn't right. Daystar should not be paying for my mother's $100,000 honeymoon. And it was at the time, the board was me, my mother, and a gentleman named Tom Callender. And Tom Callender spoke up and he said, well, we're going to have Daystar gift Joni this honeymoon. So he just kind of made that declaration. And so that was it. He made that declaration. And I guess they went through the process of gifting it to her. However, since now it has been made public, because I at the time approved all of the expenses that came through Daystar. So that's how I had the actual expense report that actually showed the dates that the honeymoon was purchased. That one in October of 2022, and then the second part was in May of 2023. Since I had that, I was able to provide that, to Julie Roy's, and it clearly showed that my mother's intention was to have Daystar pay for it using the credit card points.
Plus, we asked her about it multiple times.
Right,
And
but
she always mocked
I
us.
met with our CFO, Arnold Torres, and our head of accounting, Eddie Liasanto, and Eddie told us that Daystar did not have the credit card points sufficient to be able to cover the expense. So again, it would have had to have been Daystar paying for it.
Do you want to talk about the ambush meeting where in the recording?
Yeah, and so in that recording, that clip that's on Julie's article, that's where they had called me into another ambush meeting. Arnold, the CFO, he called me into the meeting, and when I got there, Daystar's general counsel attorney, John Lynch, was there, and the other board member, Tom Callender, was on speakerphone. And that's during the time when they were trying to work out a return for me and Suzy to television, and they were trying to again talk about like how we can do that, and they delivered the list of 13 stipulations for Suzy and me to return to television. But in that meeting, throughout that, one of the things I said was, I've always submitted to my mother. I just will not compromise when it comes to the word of God. That I cannot publicly affirm the marriage, and that's where I drew the line. And I said I submitted to the fact that Daystar paid for her honeymoon, Rachel Brown's $5,500 worth of photo shoots that were covered, and the fact that Doug was made co-host. I didn't agree with that, but I submitted to that. I just again I can't compromise on the word of God.
Could
So
I-
that's what that clip was.
Could I add an important part of this puzzle? So what's interesting is in that meeting, they accused Jonathan and me of extortion. They said your case is no different from the ladies that tried to sue Daystar. It was kind of crazy because all we asked was our convictions on our biblical convictions. That's it. So at that point, when he came home, we were shell shocked they ever used that word. And God is so wonderful. On that trip when Jonathan and Joni went in August of 22, on the plane next to me was sitting a gentleman, and he talked to me as we were landing. It was a really turbulent flight, and he was kind, and I felt like a father in his presence. And his name is Gene, and he said, "Hey, you know what? I'm an attorney. I help churches if you ever need me."
And he said he recognized you.
He recognized me. That's why he introduced himself. Anyway, so in the middle of this turmoil, and they threw the word extortion. We had no legal experience, nothing. We felt like kids. So I remember Gene. We contacted him. He called us right away, and Gene started to give us counsel because Jonathan kept fighting with Joni for family meetings.
Yeah.
He wanted to make it work. People were writing in, viewers, one email that really hurt me was an old lady on her deathbed. Her daughter was writing in saying she wants to know where Jonathan and Suzy went. And I didn't know we were loved.
Because we were like family to these viewers, like people that had seen us for years.
Right. So now, if you really cared about your viewership and you really cared about the people, like, wouldn't you think that you would literally just like, you would understand that they have this conviction, and you would literally just kind of, you wouldn't make such a big deal. Like, to me, the better way to protect your brand is to just let them stay on there. I am looking for where it really said that, where he said that she literally, that Joni, when his father passed, gave him nothing. So bear with me. I'm just trying to find out. It may be further down after this. I think it's further down. Oh, here we go. Wait. Here. Wait, let me see. No, it's gonna be further down here. Bear with me. This is where they went to all the stuff. They went with her, the lake house, yada yada da, physical manner, the dream. Da da da. Hang on 1 second, guys. I am so sorry. Daystar's money was used. Return to television. Deba on the plane. I hope I. Let me see. Let's start here, guys.
On television together.
They started threatening that Marcus's future wishes, we have that email, Marcus's future wishes of Jonathan after Joni would be taken away as punishment for not supporting her marriage. So the legal team wrote that email saying that just right the wrongs. If you want peace, the punishments that were put in place, just remove those punishments. And the recordings, which is these meetings with Jimmy Evans and them verbally abusing us, we won't bring it to light because we never wanted to. We didn't ever want to destroy and expose anybody. Our heart was repentance. So that explains that part. All he asked was that in the future, they wouldn't attack his father's wishes.
Yeah, because I never was holding the recordings over their head as blackmail. They simply, they knew I had recorded the meetings at that point. So since they knew they were out there, and my mother's 13 stipulations to return to television, they asked that we destroy the recordings. And we just said, knowing that we could potentially get to a position like we are today where we might need them to be able to tell our story.
But they didn't destroy
they
it.
never see the light of day. We just asked that you honor my father's wishes. And they basically took that small little paragraph at the end and made it look like I was blackmailing to be able to put everything behind. And now they twisted the narrative to say that I'm even put behind my daughter's SA cover up for future position. But again, at that time when I wrote that email, I had no idea about the cover up and that my father had lied to me. If I had known that, there wouldn't really be a way to really reconcile probably at that point.
But you felt something in your spirit because in that board meeting, 2 days before we found out the truth, because Joni had been calling me a Jezebel,
Yeah.
Jonathan wrote and read out a very passionate letter to the board and to the.
Did you guys pick up on the fact that he said, and he said this earlier, I think I went past it. He said earlier that because of this cover up, because now that he knows that his father lied, that there's no space for reconciliation. I find it interesting when you watch this that Suzy like pipes up on this. She's just like, well, okay, no, but we could. And Jonathan, if you've watched him on various from their own channel and then on these various interviews, he in a very short time has really blossomed and really is standing up. Like he's really like, I'm so impressed with like once he broke free from this cult like situation, man, I'm really proud of him. He's really grown in a very, very short time. Super proud. And this is going to be an interesting dynamic now between he and Suzy, because Suzy is used to being the more vocal one. So this is just going to be them having to learn how to balance each other out.
Their lawyer still begging for, can you give us some kind of justice or closure with our child? He read that, and Julie Royce will be releasing that soon, but he read it out.
Yeah.
And and look at God, how beautifully, days later we find out the truth.
God is a God of justice, and it does seem to be playing out. My question, Jonathan and Suzy, this is so painful. Like for us who are not even in your family, you seem to be operating under a peace that passes understanding. You're okay. Could I just ask? I've heard like, are you getting any money? Like, how are you living? Everyone needs to live, and my understanding is your income has been cut, Jonathan, and Suzy, you were fired because you were not submissive. Like people are concerned, and I would have thought that maybe this being in this family, it's my understanding you have your own mortgage. You do not have a home paid for by Daystar. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
but
you
but
can-
the I don't, and I won't say I understand that that's not necessarily the case for others, but there's been a lot of investment in, I mean, it came out in, a piece that I put out yesterday. It's kind of public knowledge in some ways that there's been a lot of money in the ministry and a lot has taken care of, well, the family here and there. But I just want to say once again that I just so admire that you guys have not taken an easy road. You have not had a home paid for by Daystar. You've done your own road. Why?
Yeah, and see that was part, I think, of the plan, to try to get us to submit, to succumb, and just and to basically forego our convictions. If we sign the NDA, we could work back towards getting the full restoration of our income and being back on television. However, again, that was just a non-starter. And yes, we went from 2 nice salaries, Suzy and me, to Suzy 0 and me much less. So it was altogether about a 70% reduction in our income
at the beginning of the
from
year,
its peak.
at the beginning of this year. But now we're obviously at 0.
And then obviously I officially terminated November 16th, just a few weeks ago. So
Do you want to clear up some of the misconceptions? A lot of, like, I think you were asking, coming from a wealthy family, this and that, when your dad died.
yeah, so unfortunately,
Listen up.
even though my father, he was very diligent and had a nice net worth, my mother could not find, either she couldn't find the latest will, but she said the latest will that she had was only from 2005. And so at that time, me and my 2 sisters would have been teenagers or early 20s. I would have been 20, and then my sisters would have been teenagers. So in that will, I guess it read to where my mother would receive basically my dad's entire estate to my mother. So we didn't get a dime after my father passed. Typically common law is when one of the spouses passes, it's split between the surviving spouse, and then the other half is split between the surviving kids. So I didn't get a dime, unfortunately.
Yeah. So from there, just to explain our situation. So no complaints with that. It's totally okay.
Right.
That's fine. So we have our normal income as a family.
Right.
Okay, so I want to just stress something really quick because I wanted to look at it. Some of you may be asking, how long would they have to contest the probate of that will? Well, they would have only had 2 years to contest the probate of that will after the will is submitted. So he would have passed in November of 2021. So assuming that she presented it December, January, maybe December 2021, January 2022, the time would be passed for him or his sisters to contest the probate of that will. He may have some other ways that he can do it. But can I just say, like, I find it interesting that he said either she couldn't find it or there wasn't another one. But I think he feels like he knows his father. He knew his father well enough to at least know that his daddy probably did write a new will. What mother, y'all, can somebody please answer this for me? What mother does this to her child, to her children? What mother to her grown children does not divide up, even if she took the lion's share? Let's say, I don't know, let's say she took a third and then she divided it, the other 2/3 up with the kids, with the children, with the other 3 children. Because there's 3 of them. And then maybe left some in trusts for the grandchildren and potential future grandchildren. Like that to me is what I would have done. I would have taken some. I wouldn't have needed a third of this. I mean, come on now. The Daystar still open at that point in time. Well, I need that for. So, I'm gonna take a portion but I'm gonna make sure that the legacy, because right, isn't that what the Bible says, y'all? Didn't Marcus work this hard to leave a legacy? Hmm? Ain't that what he's supposed to do? Provide for his children, his children's children. Down how many generations, y'all? So this woman claims she couldn't find any other. Now I don't know. That's I'm just repeating what that man said. That she either couldn't find it or he didn't write it. But I think this man knows his daddy. Unfortunately, not well enough to know that he would have lied to him. I think he knew it in his heart of hearts. But he knew his daddy well enough to know he created the damn will. So you gonna just not get, and even if there was no will, let's just say there wasn't. I'm gonna give her the grace to say that there wasn't. Why didn't you make sure that your kids and your grandchildren, that there were trust funds set up for the grandbabies, and that you didn't give your kids money now, a part of the estate, whatever the case may be? That right there told me all I needed to know. Even if I didn't know anything else, that right there told me all I needed to know. Why? Because a woman that would steal from her children and her grandchildren, because that's to me what it is, in my opinion. You stole from your children and your grandchildren, in my opinion. I got nothing else for you. Okay, y'all, we have been together for 3 hours. There is a whole nother 40 some odd minutes left. The remainder of this, really, they start talking about being followed. They start talking about all that kind of stuff. So I think we've come as far as we can go tonight. I really appreciate y'all being here with me. I will begin to look into some of these other people. There was was it Dr. Robert Morris, I think? Someone else was having some issues already. I'm putting in the chat also where you can, if you want to join the Heal the Hurt Army and learn how to join the certification program of spiritual life coaching, and learn how to help those who have suffered church hurt, because there's some very specific things here, as well as things like inner child healing, empath and narcissistic abuse, because a lot of times we're dealing with narcissistic abuse and things of that nature. There's some very specific things that I want that are going to help you with people to heal from church hurt and to really become an empowered soul, um and grow, right, and not be stunted. Reach out to me and we can discuss whether or not it is a fit for you to join the group. I want to thank you guys so much for being here. I so very much appreciate you. We'll be doing more in the very near future. I am excited for that. Very excited for that. All right, I'm going to get on out of here, guys. Peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. I love you guys so much. Namaste. Bye, everyone.